Hey, folks, we're going to invite Rupert to come and join us here. Joe, so much fun. That was
great. Loved
really
it.
If you've never met Rupert before, he's about to walk this way. We're going to take a seat either end of here.
Okay.
Does that sound about right?
Yes. I'm going to sit on one end of it. I've just got to hide my.
Or I could stay here.
What was I looking for?
Or you could stay there. What works best for everybody?
I think piano players stay on the piano stool because of it's his thing, isn't it? Really,
it's my realm now.
It is your thing.
Yeah.
I was looking for one.
And I will sit here.
I was looking for a jumper. It doesn't matter. Okay. Yes.
I think the people
we
at
have
home
to be
coffee
socially
break
discoed.
or just straight on.
Straight on.
Yeah.
We have to be socially discoed, don't we?
There's a clarinet down there.
Yeah.
Crap.
So
Don't tell him.
I can take this off now, can
You certainly can.
I? I didn't get to do our joke. We were going to do a joke.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to translate.
We'll do that next. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go like, so he's going to talk like a human, and I was going to go.
Like a human, like I do.
For those of you masked,
For those of you that
masked
don't.
listeners.
Yeah, for masked listeners.
So, Rupert, Joe.
Hello,
Joe.
Rupert.
Rupert.
Officially.
So you're a Brighton chap, was that? Did I hear
Yeah,
that?
only for the last 4 years. Not,
Right,
I mean,
right.
not officially. I haven't got my Spurs yet, but
No,
yeah,
you-
we moved 4 years ago from London and love it. Hove, actually.
Hove, actually, indeed.
Yep. And yeah, it's well, we've been lucky to be somewhere out of, because I've been to London a few times. It feels strange.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like Brighton has sort of kept a little bit of its sort of personality, but London's just sort of a bit hollow and strange.
It is, and it's like one big building construction site now as
Yeah,
well, isn't it?
yeah.
And I think you lose when you take the street out of an area. Do you know what I mean? As in the street culture and all that out of an area.
Bit.
It's
Sort of just all sort of goes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just buildings then.
yeah.
That's the thing. Well, Rupert, I want to say thank you very much for having us here.
That's all right.
The first time we did one here was in August last year.
Yes.
This year.
Was it this
Everything
year?
seems so long ago.
This year.
It's more of a this year is definitely a last
I
year
feel like
kind of
it's
feel
you say
to it.
last year. So August we did the live stream.
Did we? Yeah.
Yes,
Stream.
yes, we did.
We did we?
We did do it. And then, so back today, which I'm really pleased about, and it's so nice to bring Joe here. Joe, I want to say the first time that I came across you, well, the first thing, I first came and saw your dad play when I was 6 years old.
The mothership.
And I wanted to know, did you go and watch him play, Richard Stilgoe, of course. Did you go and watch him play?
Is he?
Yeah, have you met him yet?
Exciting.
Did you go and watch him play a lot
Loads.
when you grew up?
And my mum was an opera singer as well.
Yes, of
so
course,
until I was about 6 or 7, she was still singing.
Right.
So that was quite normal to go and see Dad doing either one-man shows or with Peter Skellen. He did the
Yeah.
the
That's
great
what I
Stilgoe
went
and
to
Skellen double act.
see at Della War.
But also the Albert Hall, the lovely thing about playing the aircraft hangar, as Dudley Moore used to call it, is that Dad used to do the Christmas concerts every year. He'd just host them because he was on telly a lot, so they got him to do that. So it's kind of, finding those footsteps and being okay with it, having to deal with my own.
There's a funny thing with that, because there's a guitarist friend of mine, who you know as well, Andy Williams.
Yeah.
And this thing there was a thing a while back where a band where everyone had like famous fathers, and then they were going to form a band called How's Your Father? Because that's all anyone ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
And finding your own space in that can be difficult, can't it? When
I think that's why I chose jazz clubs and that side of things, because although people will say, well, you have similar mannerisms and you play the piano and you sing, it's kind of indelible mark on the family name. I went off in my own direction to see if I could, do something a bit different. I mean, it's funny enough, I've ended up often doing the similar gigs where I've got to write a funny song or entertain a bank.
Yeah, of course.
Entertain my bank. That's the job description.
It's funny because my dad's a musician as well. My dad's a banjo player.
Right.
But I didn't take up the banjo.
No.
I decided to take up the clarinet. But someone who I mentioned to you the other day when we had a little run through, I've spoiled it. We had a run through. Sorry, I've ruined the whole thing. Yeah. A teacher, my clarinet teacher, was a guy called Jack Gilbert, who I was there, Jumping Jack Gilbert, who lived in Burgess Hill. And now there's an amazing connection that myself and Rupert have. Is that Rupert used to play with Jack, And so, and we both
Yeah,
had him as
yeah.
this kind of mentor figure.
Yeah, sort of 20 years apart in
Right.
a weird sort of way, yeah.
And it's weird, and we both feel really enriched from knowing
Oh,
him.
yeah,
and
yeah.
He used to teach us, you know, when you, without meaning to teach us, or without meaning to teach, he was just like, when you're playing, it's got to be everything, you know. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're there, whether you're playing to one person or whether you're doing, you know, or whether it's like this, you don't know who's there, you don't know, you know, it's always about giving your full performance. And it's something I always find with you is any time I've watched you live or watched you on camera or anything, I always feel that, you know, that's what you're doing. You're giving your
You're
whole
there.
self.
It's
to the
being
whole
there.
thing.
I mean, I'm a sucker for it, and it took me back today because I grew up playing originally with just trumpet and piano.
Yeah.
And stride as well.
Right.
Stride piano player, a friend of mine, Steve Turner.
Yeah.
The other thing about Jack, and funny enough, Brighton, I was talking about someone yesterday, I'm not going to mention any names, but there used to be this thing where we were young and outcasts because we weren't cool.
Yeah.
Because there was all these cool school playing music that I eventually got into, the Jerry Mulligan, Clifford Brown and all that, but we were playing stride piano and Everybody Loves My Baby and that with Jack Gilbert.
Yeah.
You know, and we were the young people that weren't playing what young people did at that time.
Yeah.
And there was a Brighton cool syndicate that looked at us in
What are you doing?
Well, that's still there.
Yeah,
Rupert, for every generation.
Yeah.
We're in that. We've been in that bracket as well. So why aren't you kind of extending the boundaries of jazz composition? You thinking, well,
it's funny how that is still a thing. It's still a thing that people. It amazes me when I introduce people to like some Louis Armstrong stuff. They're like, "Oh wow, this is amazing." It's like, yeah, surely.
Well, do you know what?
I think that's where you start. But I feel extremely lucky to have sort of.
but it's hard to not be preachy and patronising sometimes, isn't it? When you've got young people wanting to learn about jazz and they don't care about Louis Armstrong.
No.
And you can't say, well, this is where it starts.
Do you know what I did? I played a game on a Brecker saxophone player.
Yeah.
Who was only in Brecker or whatever. And good reader in that is we were talking about this track the other day. I gave him West End Blues, but didn't say it was Louis Armstrong. Played, have a look at this cadenza, and he was going, wow. And he says, who is it? And he went through a list of all these modern, because he played it in his style.
Yeah.
But he wasn't tainted by the sound or the era. He didn't know that first, and that stuff is as modern as anything.
Yeah. The actual notes.
The actual notes are. Yeah. Leonard Bernstein said when he heard West End Blues. Not West Side Story. West End Blues. He said that I think I've just heard the most perfect piece of music of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
And at that time, to have just not been to college, just been doing gospel on a street corner. How about this, guys?
Yeah, have that.
you know.
One thing I wanted to. Who was your mentor growing up? Did you have?
Yeah, I mean, the mentor thing is so important, isn't it? I feel like Dad, having parents who understood music was huge. But actually, Peter Skellen, Dad had gone a different way and he started doing gigs in cabaret clubs when he was 18. But Peter had gone to the Guildhall and studied proper piano and then got a record deal and had a huge hit in the 70s.
Yeah.
But Peter's love was people like Errol Garner and Art Tatum, so he could play that stuff, all those transcriptions. And he got me into Hoagie Carmichael and the standards, really, because it wasn't ever Dad's thing. He never really, he appreciated them, but that wasn't his choice. So Peter was a huge mentor for me. But really, I didn't have anyone jazzy, I remember just desperately trying to find anyone who could...
This we're talking about, is trying to find stuff.
Yeah, find people, find the music, and then getting to university and meeting people like me. It was almost like you walk into sort of mirror land and you're going, how were these people existing?
I remember ringing up Steve once saying, there's a Fats Waller book in the music shop.
Yeah.
It was just like running down that. It was like getting, as you say, no Spotify or anything.
No.
You just you found a little window of something,
But for performance, I was talking about Bobby Lamb.
Yeah.
Do you know Bobby, Rupert? He was
Rings a bell. I'm utterly atrocious at names.
No, Bobby is probably in his 80s now, and he's Irish trombonist of, in the 50s and 60s, he was the first pickup name that, if you got a touring band, they needed to fill a trombonist. So Sinatra always called Bobby first.
Right.
Stan Kenton, he was #1 in Stan Kenton's band. And Woody Herman. And he ran the Trinity College big band. And was just tiny little things he would say, and you would go, oh, well, why didn't anyone tell me that before? Is it about space, about having a clear idea of what you're going to be playing? But it was also about being professional. You know, he would always be at the rehearsal a half an hour before everyone else, and he would have warmed up his trombone, and he didn't even play it at the rehearsal, but that was his thing. Yeah. We had one memorable gig at the Henley Festival, all black tie and champagne and strawberries. And there was a big band of 20, 3 of the band had managed to turn up. I somehow got there because there was a crash on the M4.
Oh, wow.
And Bobby was there as well. But he just absolutely blew a gasket because there's 3 of us in a big band. He said it doesn't matter if there's a crash, you get there early.
You allow for that.
So I suppose there's musical mentors, but there's also that kind of teaching you about how to be a musician.
That's such an important thing. I remember one time when I was living back in, because when I was 15, I left home and I moved to Devon, joined Richard Bennett's New Orleans Jazz Band, hundreds of gigs every year. Because the funny thing is, Jack Gilbert, my mentor, had always said, he said, whatever you do, don't go professional at music. He said, you'll have like splatterings of fame. He said, and you'll make no money. He said, that's it. He said, don't do that. And then my music teacher from the school got in touch with Jack and said, well, I'm incredibly worried about Adrian. Don't know what he's going to do with his life. He's useless at music, like that. And Jack said, right, that's it. No, he said, change of plan. He said, you've got to go for it, go professional. So the band who I joined were down in Devon, and I was back at my mum and dad's, and I remember to get the coach down to, we were doing a gig in Bridgewater, and the coach has to come up the A23 off the slip road, and basically it had come up and it hadn't picked me up. It didn't come up the slip road, and I'm stood there going, I don't know what to do, and I found a pay phone, and I phoned the trumpet player. I said, Richard, I've got a real bad problem. I said, the coach hasn't turned up to pick me up. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And he said, we're on at 8 o'clock. Make sure you're here by 1 minute to 8. Yeah. See you later.
Right.
And I was like, oh, right. But do you know what? I got there at 10 to 8. Yeah. I made it there. Whatever it was, I remember hitchhiking up to Heathrow, getting another bus.
Plane to Exeter Airport.
Yeah, well, there's a thing, there's a couple. I have to do talks to do his stuff we do, and I love sharing any knowledge I can help. But one of those things with that is that thing of, I want to do a thing of how not to get signed, because there is a load of things that, I mean, I had a gig when I've tried to help people, and I kind of have a 3-strike rule with when I used to do loads of gigs and that, I'd have a pad of people I'd use, and there'd be a point where you go, and I remember a sax player in Brighton ring me up from a function. I was at a function in New Forest, and he rang me up on the day for a lift, and I'm like, we're there. He just hadn't realised. Yeah. I says, but if you can get here, you've still got enough time.
Yeah.
You know, and he didn't manage it. You know, and it's like enough time if you put yourself out.
Well, that's it, because that's the thing. There's a whole side. It's not. We were talking about this the other. It's not enough just to be able to play music, it's like a whole side of.
You have to have the whole package together.
But unfortunately, the musical temperament for lots of people doesn't go with being organised and being good at travel or money or anything. I mean, that's why lots of super genius musicians have people who do that for them if they get successful.
If you get to that point, yeah.
But for lots of others, it's hard, and you can be a great sax player but never get to the gig on time, and that's it.
Yeah,
you have to go and become what are you going to do?
I think there's also an element of some people sometimes almost like plan to fail, as in like, I'd have been great if it wasn't for this, I'd have been great if it wasn't for that. And
there's always good to have a get out of jail card.
Yeah.
Sort of excuse hanging over it.
But the more prepared you are, because I think everyone gets breaks, opportunities. Yeah. The more prepared you are, when that opportunity comes along, the less likely you are to mess it up.
Yeah.
You know, the practice you put in the time. It's all training. Everything's
training for the moment.
Yeah.
It was a John Lennon. That's just reminding me of a John Lennon interview, quite near, deep into the 70s, when he was saying a lot of strange stuff in interviews. But someone said, it seems like you've got a God-given talent, for just creating songs and music. And he said, it's not God-given. There's stuff hanging around, and I'm just there, and I'm ready to write it. I'm sort of plucking it out.
Observation.
So it's being,
bang on
it's
about
like
that.
being by the phone, you know, ready for those.
Well, you know, Spike
gigs.
Milligan, when he was stuck for ideas, there used to be a railway ticket. I taught Spike to play the trumpet again near the end of his life.
Right, amazing.
Because he had Parkinson's, and
Yeah.
I play using non-pressure. So
Yeah.
we had some very interesting things. But he used to get a runaround ticket for the train, which you don't do anymore, where you could just go where you like within an area. And you just sit on it, waiting for conversations to happen. And then, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember arriving in Hastings once and a guy shouting out the window, no, his wife shouting out the window to him on the platform, "Your dinner's in the dustbin." and we all burst out laughing. Being like,
Yeah.
she just turned around and said, "It's a clean dustbin." You know, and it's just like, but what, you know? But it's observation of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and especially with songs. And observation, listening, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
How do you go about songwriting? 'Cause you've written a load of songs, haven't you? You have a...
Yes, I used to just fill in, the lyrics used to be, when I first started, were just filling in the gaps, which is the wrong way about it.
Yeah.
But now my songwriting heroes are, I suppose they used to be all the, you know, Gershwin and Cole Porter for the music.
Yeah.
But now it's people like Randy Newman, Joni Mitchell, Stephen Sondheim, who are, the song is nothing without the words, but the music's still great.
Yeah, so it's the whole thing.
Yeah, so I find that a really interesting shift. And I remember telling my dad that I didn't care about lyrics, and he's like,
Yeah, there's different parts of your life when you...
Yeah.
I mean, I love those lyrics when, like, imagination is funny, makes a cloudy day sunny, makes a bee think of honey, just like I think of you.
Yeah.
And you think, like, it's like always been there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Those you know...
yeah. I've sort of, a phrase for that is,
I know it's kind of obvious in one way, but it's just a beautiful...
yeah, inevitable but surprising.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is what lyrics should be. You shouldn't go, oh, what are they doing there? It should sound as though they've just been plucked from the tree, but they're unique as well. I can't stand, you know, I can't ever write the stuff that's, you know, in the charts.
We used to have a board when I used to work in with boy bands and things like that, which I did.
We're a boy band.
Anything I've ever taken the mick out of, I've ended up working on.
Yeah.
Life's just gone.
Yeah.
But we used to have a board of things you couldn't rhyme and things like a curse board of like when people were lazy was lyric writing. I'm like, no, we're not doing that
No,
again.
definitely not
No,
that.
definitely not that.
Yeah.
Because you young artists sometimes sitting there thinking they're thinking really hard and feet rhymes with meat, doesn't it? And things like that. And you're just going... Oh,
But also it's the baby crazy thing, which,
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with my dad as sort of the disciple of the true rhyme is the gospel. So baby and crazy, home and alone, they're not allowed. Except there's a school of thought that's the Nashville, if you go to write songs in Nashville, it's like if you can make it sound the same when you're singing it,
okay.
you're allowed it.
That's allowed.
Riddle me this then. Moonlight in Vermont.
No rhymes.
No.
What's the form? It's like a...
It's odd as
It's
well.
a haiku. It's not a
And
haiku.
it kind
but
of works.
Is it a
It works.
haiku?
Well, not just kind of works.
It's great. Who's that, Vernon Duke? Yeah, I mean, so songwriting's you're always evolving. That's why I love it. I'm just reading a lot about, you know, great songwriters and seeing the process. Because I listen, even in Rainbows in My Teacup, I realised I used the word C, as in C, S-E-E, and then S-E-A at the
SEA,
end.
yeah.
But how is the listener supposed to distinguish between them? Because you've also got to be...
But isn't that part of the fun of it?
I
Having
suppose
a little
so,
bit of
yeah. I
ambiguity.
mean, if you listen to
in
Paul Simon,
there. Yeah.
lots of his lyrics sound pretty impenetrable, and you think, I mean, they're beautiful, but what's he going on about? But actually, it doesn't matter because you have you form your own world.
Yeah.
When you listen to Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes or you know, that.
Well, I think there's that thing of everyone's entitled to their own memories. So a song can be, when people, I mean, this is something we got from Jack as well, that thing of like, nothing's below you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As in, if something was playing when someone proposed to someone, that's going to mean that to them, for, you know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You can't... You learn that as you get a bit older, don't you? You can't be sniffy about anyone's music taste.
No, nothing, not at
Yeah.
all. And people do that, unfortunately, a lot, don't they? They do.
Well,
get-
it's... It's frustrating, I suppose, when you're growing, when you're thinking, well, I've found the best music, and whether it's Louis Armstrong,
Don't go near my music.
and then you hear a song by Steps.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Steps, but also, you know,
You've hugely offended my sister there, Joe.
well, no, I like them for what they are.
I can't remember. I'm going to try and avoid names, but with one of those bands, and I'll tell you that, ended up backstage, and I'd never been to one of those sort of gigs before, and I was just shocked and horrified. And it was at Wembley, and everything was on playback as well. And this guy comes in and says, "What do you think?" I says, "Sounds like a holiday camp band to me." And it was like I was instantly shunned. And it was just, I was only young at the time, but I hadn't quite mastered the etiquette of saying,
Well, when does sounded great.
But like Rupert, like you were saying, you know, about your career, that you've ended up working with all those people who probably your younger self would have gone, no, I wouldn't do that.
Oh yeah, I was a complete jazz snob.
Because that's how life works. And if you've gone into, you know, the world you've gone into, your job is to then make that thing better.
Yeah.
And make it as good as you possibly can.
The flip is in different parts is nowadays, I'll put my hands up and say, I'm not the right guy for this.
Yeah.
Because I went through a difficult period of trying to produce people would ask for my help producing very straight pop. And that I get asked to do the quirky stuff now, and that suits me. And I've kind of naturally, and the area I don't get on with has naturally gone somewhere else. And that's kind of, I'm fine with that.
Is that
now.
more of a time thing, though?
It's an age
Is that you
thing.
saying no, or is it you realising, hang on a minute, I am not the person for that? Or is it...
Yeah, it's an age thing. I'm realising that we're going to fall out anyway, so let's just do it now. Rather, you know, it's motives behind why people are doing it. And I boot camp young artists and I get some... The problem I've had in recent years is I've got some people who have done the journey with me and it's been fantastic and put the hours in. There is in our current culture people not realising it still takes a tremendous amount of effort. I mean, I get people texting me kind of asking why they're not famous yet. You know, and I can give people the tools, but they still have to have... I find that there is one ironic thing that if whatever your belief is, that sometimes I think someone's having a massive joke where they'll say, I'll give someone, like we were saying about the people who are together, I'll give someone all the talent, none of the drive. Or give someone loads of drive and they can organise a gig and stuff, but none of the talent. And then finding those rarity people that have tick all the boxes.
All of that together pushes it forward.
It's a difficult thing. But realising how much graft. I took an artist to see when a few years back we did Paul Carrack with the Royal Philharmonic. And I took a young singer at the time and to show how Paul in his 60s, how hard he worked in a day. He was still doing, and when he's on tour, he still does local radio on a guitar and that for pushing the gig in the evening. Still does it utterly professionally, you know, after all these years.
Yeah.
And I try and say to people, if you're not the person that's going to do that or wants to work that hard, this probably isn't for you because there's 1,000 people knocking on the door.
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny when we met up on Friday, and it was great because we said, all right, we'll go for the music for Friday. And we haven't hung out lots before in our lives, have we?
No.
I remember I met you in Edinburgh in 2016, and then I think I saw you at Ronnie's.
Yeah.
And then I did the lyric.
Yeah, it's that musicians thing if we think we know each other, but really...
I think this is probably the 5th time we've...
Do you know what? We had that talking about with Jack Gilbert. I'd played with him for years, right? Never met him socially.
No, you said that.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have a chat or a thing at a thing, but you just realise that the only time...
Was in that... Well, this was the nice... So I arrived to meet Joe on Friday, and before we even played a note, we had a chat for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like before, like piano, clarinet, and I just said, that hour and a half was just as important as actually playing the tunes.
Oh, definitely.
Because you've got to... If you're going to play with someone... All right, there's sometimes that thing where something happens and you go, wow, we've got to do that again. But actually,
it's all about communication, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that was it. And I think being older, I was able to look at that. And I went home and I remember telling my dad, saying, Dad, that was great. I came back from there, I said, we had an hour and a half chat. And we had to get to know each other. It wasn't like, we've got to get to know each other before we can play. No, but we got to know each other, and then we played, and it was just like, oh, this is going to be great fun, you know. And
I must show you some of I collect the chat outtakes between recordings sometimes, and I've got some fantastic ones. I did Wayne Shorter with Herbie Hancock at Abbey Road, and Wayne had this, when he was explaining, they went through this track doing a Joni Mitchell tribute thing, and they went through this track, and he was saying, but his abstract words of explaining what he meant, he's saying, guys, if we play this again, you know, ever since Oliver Stone made a war film, you can't make a war film like you made in foot. You can buy things on Amazon now. And his brain was going ding, 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 ding. But there was he was basically saying we have to play this for today.
yeah, right.
You know. But so we have some nostalgia and some new. But he did it in the most random words of like. But there was.
But you've got all of that captured.
Yeah, I've got all that
That's
captured.
something Rupert always does is record everything.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I love the outtakes. I've worked with lots of producers and they snip it immediately. And I think those are sometimes the best bits.
Yeah.
The laugh or the comment, which you could...
Yeah, all of that was it.
Yeah.
There is a fantastic, there's two, I think. Well, you mentioned the Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald. There's a Louis Armstrong Oscar Peterson album.
Yeah,
and you can
that.
also get a longer one with all the outtakes on.
Oh, great.
And it's fantastic. And it's great to hear, and I think it's important to hear them trying to start a song and messing it up at that level, going, my mama done told me, boom. No, is it on the...
Is it that one?
Yeah, you know, and you think at that level. And I think that's an important thing as well.
Yeah.
Because I remember a thing Bob Berg said once, my biggest fear in life is being found out.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of realising that it's all right to make a mistake, or it's all right to...
Have you seen the Ronnie Scott documentary?
The recent one.
Yeah. It's on
No,
BBC.
All right.
Yeah,
It's great. It's
really
nice.
good.
It's a proper feature length. I think Bob Berg's on there, but Ronnie himself, lots of interviews with him, and he was the classic imposter syndrome guy.
Yeah.
Thought he was useless at the sax. He thought he was just there to tell the jokes. And even then, he didn't think he was very funny, but he was brilliant at everything. He just wasn't. You know, there is talking about temperament. There is a whole stream of musicians who don't ever feel they're good enough, and maybe it holds them back from.
But the trouble is whatever level you are at, and I try and when I warn people about this, when they're without killing their enthusiasm, whatever level you're at, you know how you do what you do. So you very rarely surprise yourself. So you're always doing this, but the mountain will always get higher as well. You know.
Yeah, which is why it's best to have heroes who are completely useless at their chosen field. Yeah, it's why Les Dawson for me is.
Yeah, of course.
Nobody know.
Oh, fantastic.
But it is a difficult thing. I love that thing. I try and say to people sometimes, the one person, to get to a level where the one person in the band you aren't listening to is yourself. So you're just enjoying.
When you're enjoying everything that's going on.
Yeah.
That's an important thing.
But it's difficult. I'm trying to get back into playing because I've had a bit of a. But there's a terrible thing if you're not gigging enough, and I feel for everyone in this current situation where I remember doing a gig with Liam, right, where I'd been so busy doing. It was when we were doing the Abbey Road thing. I could feel I was out of time. But and I said to Andrea, who was in the audience, said like. I'm out of time. I'm not. And she was like, Andrew doesn't suffer fools. Said, yeah, I know. Just build you with that kind of. And it was kind of that thing of you have to. And it's a difficult thing for people today because we all learn playing loads, gigging loads. And I said to someone the other day, sort of, are you gigging a lot? One of these young artists. Oh yeah, I've got. And this was a couple of years ago. I've got a gig in January, February. I said, well, when I was your age, I was doing 13 gigs a week. I was doing a gig in a pub, a gig in a nightclub, an afternoon gig, 3 gigs on a set. Bang, 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 bang. And that's where you get your chops.
Yeah.
And if you have a break, it's hard to get that.
To get back into
that pocket.
But time is the essence, but time is the key for that.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be settled. It's like anything where you have to be completely focused and ready, but actually relaxed at the same time. And if you haven't had all those hours and hours and hours playing, you don't know what it feels like when you're at the Albert Hall or you're at Ronnie Scott's or you're at a pub and your heart rate's going different rates.
Yeah, dealing with
Your
that.
your fingers, I sometimes call it winter fingers or Christmas fingers, turkey fingers. But whatever it is, my hands aren't really the same all the way through the year. So sometimes I find it very easy. And the same with time. Sometimes I think I'm unable to get into certain tempos at, as much as I can at other times of the year. So all of those things you've got to take into account as you're learning.
Be aware of this thing. I was talking about when we was back with Jack Gilbert. We talk about that thing of the voices in your head sometimes. When I used to do some of the Hot 5 stuff, the Louis Armstrong Hot 5 stuff, and I knew there was people there who'd only came to make me to watch me mess up.
Yeah.
And there's certain ones where there's a note at the end, and then you get your 32 bars from there, and the voices have started going, you're not going to get that one. Of course you're not. Who do you think you are? Why did you even take this off?
And then you realise the guy's actually saying that.
Yeah.
On your shoulder.
Yeah, he's actually there.
He's actually there.
Get out.
Hey, so, Joe, I'm going to ask you, because we'll
leave.
wrap up in a bit. No, leave immediately.
Please.
So, when plans for when things normalise slightly, or things have you got coming up? I know you've got a gig in London happening in December.
So Albert Hall next week, and then there's this beautiful venue called the Welsh Chapel, which is on Shaftesbury Avenue, which has been unused for years, but a producer just got in touch. I suppose this is the way, isn't it? Because venues that haven't opened are going to find it very hard to just suddenly open. Yeah. So this is a beautiful space, and they're going to, make it look beautiful and light it and put sound in. Great. So 2 solo shows there. What date's on the 18th, December the 18th. But it's mad looking at last year's diary, because Christmas is, it's the 13 gigs a week. Yeah. I love it. I'm pinging around from gig to gig and realising I hadn't learnt that song well enough.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, that's for the TV. Shame. So this is a bit more relaxed, and I am enjoying it. I'm getting used to that, and I've been writing a lot more, so I've had the time to do that.
And January, you've got the thing at Zedell.
Yeah, I've got a week at Zedell with various different people. Joe Stilgoe and Friends, which is the 18th to the 23rd. And then who knows? I mean, I was going to put a tour in. I was going to do a new album, but I think I'm keeping it light. Same with you?
Yeah. So I've got my idea for the next album, which with strings, and the ideas all here and things like that. But it's just a matter of, because the guy who's arranged all the music for it, he's in Paris, so I've got to arrange for the arranger to come here for the recording and things like that. But it's all exciting, and Gabriella Swallow's going to be doing it. And as I said, Denny Eilert, mutual friend. Denny was here on the one that we did in August.
Yeah, it was great with Dave Newton and Ferg.
Yeah, it was great fun, So would you come back and do another one of these with me?
Yes,
Joe?
Tomorrow. I'm free.
Is that all right?
No, I'd love to. Yeah. And Rupert, I love this space, and it's been great to play music in a really different, exciting room. Yeah. And quite close to where I live.
Yeah, amazing.
That's the result.
Give or take the odd horse on the way here.
We should have done sorry for everyone if we've not been talking to you on the notes that have been coming up, because there's been loads and loads of things.
Well, I'm going to go through them all and get in touch with people and things like that. I'm going to tell you that also, I'm going to look at the camera for this bit. Hello. It's probably just my mum watching. All right, Mum.
It would be embarrassing if she's
not
stopped.
watching. Yeah. But it's just like, oh well. No. So on December the 20th, I'm going to be back here at Gun Hill Studios, and we're going to have a Christmas party. I'm going to do a gig, and there's a few people who I'm going to ask to come down. If you're in the area, you're always welcome. Of course, it could be sooner than you thought.
Antlers ahoy.
But anyway, so that's going to be on December the 20th. Again, if you do want to donate to today or any of the shows, it's paypal.me/ that way. Adrian Cox Music. It's not compulsory, but it all helps, so thank you. Also, thank you, Rupert, very much. Thanks to all the crew. And a huge thanks to Mr. Joe Stilgoe. It's been great, man.
Been great to be here. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
And we hope you've all enjoyed it. The Sunday service with Adrian Cox. But we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.